Hello again. In this video, we'll cover some of the basic querying capabilities on the views that we've already created in Denodo Express. The views that we query can be either base views or derived views, like the one we created in the previous video. In this video, we're going to execute queries against the personal data CRM view that we created in the previous exercise. To get started, we'll execute a select star query against the view without using a where clause. To do this, you need to right-click on the Personal Data CRM view in the left-hand navigation panel and select Execute from the drop-down menu. This brings up the Query Detailed screen. Click on the Execute button at the bottom of the screen to execute the query, and the query results are returned from the data sources and displayed in the results grid. Now we'll perform another query, but this time we'll add some where conditions. To do this, click on the New Query button to get back to the Query Detailed screen. To add a condition to the query, you simply click on the plus sign in the Conditions section of the page. Correspondingly, you can remove a condition by clicking on the minus next to the condition that you want to remove. In this example, we'll add a new condition to the query so that we only retrieve records where the client name equals Smith. In the first field for the condition, we specify the column on which we want to apply the condition. In this case, it's the column containing the client's surname, so select surname from the drop-down list. In the second field, we'll specify the logical operator for the condition. We'll select equals from the list of operators. And in the final field, we'll specify the value that we want to match. As this is a text field, we'll enter the value Smith. Notice how the SQL statement is updated to include the where clause as you add conditions. It always reflects the SQL statement that you would execute at any given time. Now we can execute the query by clicking on the Execute button. And we get the results back from the underlying data sources. We can look at how Denodo Express executed the query by looking at the execution trace. The execution trace provides information about the mechanics and timings of the query execution. That is, what was done, how it was done, how long it took, and so on. This information is invaluable for determining what is happening to your query, identifying any bottlenecks, and optimizing performance. If you look at the various steps in the execution query, you can see the action that was performed and how long this took. The last step of the query is executing the query against the underlying data source. Here you can see the actual query that's executed against the data source. And note that this is different from the query that you created when you add conditions to the select statement to query the Personal Data CRM virtual view. Firstly, the where clause condition, i.e. the surname equals Smith part of the query, is passed to the data source as a parameterized query. This allows Denodo Express to optimize the query while still allowing dynamic flexibility so you can change the where condition at runtime. The second thing to notice are the join clauses in the statement. If you recall, the Personal Data CRM view was a join of 3 tables in the Acme CRM database. Denodo Express pushes the join of these 3 tables down to the Acme CRM database. In other words, rather than query each table and perform the join within Denodo Express, the join is performed within the Acme CRM database, and only the results, only 11 rows in this case, are returned to Denodo Express. This is a good example of the query optimization performed by Denodo Express. In this case, it's a process called query delegation and has 2 obvious benefits. Firstly, only the result set is returned to Denodo Express from the database. This minimizes data movement. While for 11 rows this might not seem significant, but if your dataset has millions of rows of data, then minimizing data movement in this way can significantly improve performance and response times. Secondly, query optimization takes advantage of the power of the underlying data source. Databases such as Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, and so on have been tuned and optimized to perform relational operations such as joins. So Denodo Express takes advantage of this database tuning and optimization and, wherever possible, delegates some or all of the query to the underlying database. Now click on OK to return to the results. If you're comfortable with SQL, it's possible to write your own queries rather than use the query wizard. Let's create a new query to see this. Rather than using the wizard to create the where clause for our query, we'll go to freeform mode by selecting the Specify Where Expression radio button. Notice how Denodo Express has maintained the existing where clause, and we can now extend this by adding and name equals John. We can preview how Denodo Express plans to execute the query by looking at the query plan. This shows that Denodo Express plans to send the values for both name and surname as parameters, and that the join operation will be delegated to the underlying MySQL database. And if we now execute this query, we get a result set that is a single row, which matches the where clause criteria. If we look at the execution trace, you can see that Denodo Express did exactly what the query plan showed. The query is parameterized, and the join operation is delegated to the Acme CRM database. So now you know how to run queries on virtual views in Denodo Express, and also how to use the query plan and the execution trace to analyze the execution of these queries.